Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Start With Self podcast episode. Today, I have a very special guest with me, David Lee. David is a lifelong learner with a passion for sharing knowledge and improving the lives of the people he works with. Coaching since 2010, his work as a life coach and personal trainer has allowed him to see firsthand how health is your wealth. He believes that most people's roadblocks in life can be corrected by adopting a physiology is psychology attitude. As a Libran, he believes in a balanced approach to life, and peace of mind is his highest priority. David has spent over 30 years working in the advertising industry and found that the most rewarding part of his job was coaching and motivating his teams to achieve success. He has also co-authored the book, The Complete Health Series, and he runs a series of online courses that focus on goal setting, discovering your life purpose, self-reliance, as well as corporate and small business training around sales, negotiations, presentation skills, listening skills, and networking. David, welcome to this episode. It is my pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Ola. It's my privilege to be your guest. We were introduced by a mutual friend of ours, Ralph Ananian, and the idea that Ralph spoke so very highly of you, I thought, wow, that's great because he's such a lovely bloke. And I've never met anyone through him. Yeah, I haven't met anyone through him who I haven't liked and respected. So he says you're doing great things, and I loved the podcast you did with him. And I love the meditation you sent me recently, which I've been doing, which has changed my style of meditation as well. So,
thank you so much. Thank you. I didn't know that actually. Thank you, David. I really appreciate your kind words. David, in one of your blog posts, which is called An Attitude of Gratitude, you say that how we choose to interpret our situation and how we choose to respond to it defines who we are as a person. So my first question is, what were the three most defining moments or situations in your life?
I'd say there's probably been four, and the fourth has only occurred recently, but the first would have been around, I had just left home and I found a book on the train. So I used to catch the train, I grew up in the Blue Mountains, and I'd catch a train down to Sydney every day, and the guards would wake me up when the train terminated at Central. Somebody had left a book behind called The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vince Peale. And up until that stage, I had just assumed that I was going to be a mail boy and see what happened in life. I had no real plan or goals. And through that sort of reading of that book, I was brought up very, very strict. We were brought up in an environment, which was, there's 10 kids in the family, and, we pretty much kept to ourselves. We were raised in a very strict world. We didn't go to parties. We didn't necessarily go to school excursions or play competitive sports or anything like that. And we were also only socialized within our family circle to a degree. But within the train sort of catching situation, I was able to observe a lot because we only got around by a train. We didn't have cars, anything like that. We walked everywhere, so we're always healthy. But I think when I found that book, it changed my perspective on life, that I had a pessimistic approach to life prior to that, victim mentality. And I've since learned through that the difference between being a victim, we're all victims at the moment, so to speak, but victims will sit there and stay there, and martyrs will actually stay there until they die. They will die for the cause. But I think recognizing what we're going through at the moment, of course, with COVID, and then use the power of positive thinking and think optimistic around how we respond to a situation. So that was probably one of the most defining moments, because I had left home and I was making a life for myself. I lived on my own, had to find my own way, had to learn how to socialize, learn how to save money, all those things that I hadn't really had instilled in me, because a lot of the decisions I had been making were made for me. So even the subjects that I studied at school, my father, a great man, he was an accountant and a tax investigator, and he believed that accountancy was the best way to go. Very solid job. One of my brothers became an accountant. We all kind of studied it, and through the studying of the accountancy, I did very well in business communications and marketing. So that's the area that I went into, hence the advertising background. But it wasn't until I actually left home, started reading different books, that I realized I wasn't stupid because I was failing in all the subjects my father had chosen for me because I wasn't any good at them and I wasn't interested in them. And I never did my homework sort of thing because it was just boring and not what my life's passion was. So that would have been probably the first defining moment. Second would have been around the time that I nearly drowned. I was on a boating. Yeah, I was on a fishing, not a fishing trip. I'd gone out fishing with a mate of mine. The owner of the boat had told us don't go out past these green markers, and
They just did.
Well, we did, yeah, of course, because he told us not to. I said to somebody the other day, everywhere you go at the moment, there are people crowding the beaches and I've never seen so many people outside. And I thought, well, the Australian government has kind of cracked the code on how to get Australians to do things. You just tell them they can't. And because we're not allowed to go out as well, everyone's going out and doing the things they can't. And I was told at the time not to go past the green markers. And the fellow I was fishing with at the time said, well, you know why he told us not to go past the green markers? And I said, why? And he said, well, because that's where all the fish are. We're not catching anything. So we went out past the green markers without noticing the seas had changed on us. We got thrown out of the boat. We didn't even realize we drifted miles away from shore. And I wasn't a strong swimmer. Yeah, I wasn't a strong swimmer then. And the fellow who I was in the boat with was a lifesaver, a DY lifesaving, or he'd worked with them. But he couldn't save me 3 miles out from land. And he said, I'll go after the boat. So off he went. And I was out there for what seemed like hours. But on 3 occasions, I went
water for hours.
I was in the water, yes. So for a couple of hours, and it was winter. So it was an Easter holiday. And I had on at the time a big anorak, boots and big jeans. So I took all that off because I was sinking. And so then I'm cold. And I keep thinking, it was a good thing that I saw Mum and Dad last weekend. I've had a pretty good run of things. And I was only just getting started in my advertising career. And I just started making money. And, life was going my way. I knew I was going to have a great life. And then every time I thought that I was going to drown, like I would go underwater and giving up, I just had this fighting instinct inside me. So I vomited a few times, but I made a lot of promises to God that day as well, as far as if you save me, I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll make these changes and I'll get on with life and I'll stop, mucking around, wasting time. And then the fellow who was, had finally caught the boat and was going around in circles, and got back to us. And long story short, the boat broke down a couple of times on the way back because it had no petrol. But when I finally got back and started to think the next few days at work, wow, I could have died. And everything I was doing was like, wow, I might not be having this cup of tea right now because I'd be dead, that sort of thing. And it gave me a real presence or an awareness of presence in that I appreciated every single little thing I was doing because I could have been dead. And I just
nourish this kind of attitude.
I haven't.
Your blog post, it seems that you do, that you really.
Yeah, I have a very different perspective. Yeah, I live on the idea that, you could leave life right now. It's a very stoic sort of philosophy that, I could die tomorrow. And if I did, would I be happy with the life that I've lived? None of us know when our number is up, so to speak. So the idea of living life to its fullest, not from a nihilistic or a hedonistic perspective, but putting every effort in the body you've been given, with the mind you've been given, with the service opportunities you've been given to help people out. So that really changed my perspective on just getting on with life and making something of myself rather than just thinking I've got forever. And then I think the third would have been the birth of my daughters. Having unconditional love. I'd never really had a dog. People tell me that having a dog gives you unconditional love. I'd never really had a dog.
I can say yes.
Oh, very good.
In my case, at least.
Very good. But having children, not comparing children to dogs in any instance.
No, of course not.
But being responsible for another human being. And I have 2 daughters and they're only 13 months apart. So my second daughter's arrival was still another great sort of time of my life. And they're now 22 and 21 now, but my commitment to them and my investment in them as children really changed. It kind of blocked me down a bit as well, having girls. I didn't watch as much footy or play as much golf and that sort of thing. But no, just being involved in their life really made a difference, and being responsible for 2 people who I wanted to get a good role model of what a man should be. It made me have to be a better man, so to speak. And just to really learn to really care for them as people. And I'll cheat on the fourth thing I'd say, only because it only happened recently. Two months ago today, my father passed away in his sleep. And
Today.
as an, so as an 85-year-old man, he was very robust, very strong. The day before he died, he'd walked up to the doctors and he'd got his blood pressure, which was 120/80. We'd watched the State of Virtue with him a couple of nights before, and complete shock. So for me, I made a couple of promises to my father when I visited him in that bedroom on that fateful day that were along the lines of, let's just get on with life. And I've achieved a lot more in the last 2 months than I have in a long time. I mean, you and I first started talking about this podcast back in January of this year. And again, just kind of, yeah. And I've got all the time in the world. And from that day, I've done an enormous amount of things that I had always wanted to do just because I had said to my father I'd make him proud, and I'd use the gifts and abilities and skills that he'd instilled in me. As much as my father was very hard taskmaster when we were younger, and I wrote on his 85th birthday, I had said to the scariest man of my youth and the fondest man of my adulthood. And he really did. He was a bloke who was a big Irish man and taught us how to fight and taught us how to be men and gentlemen. And the worst thing we could do in the world was be mean or touch or hit one of our sisters or anything. That was the biggest punishment. So women were put up there as the highest level of the pedestal. How we treated our mother was very important to my father. But the idea, as I say, that such a strong man could just die in his sleep without any warning, you never know when your number is up. And 85 is still pretty good innings. And I'd like to think that when I get to 85, I have the same level of articulation, physicality, mindfulness, awareness and involvement as my father did with his 40 plus grandchildren and, great grandchildren and his 10 children as well. So it was a life defining moment that is very, very recent. And I'm only when I say coming to terms with it, I'm aware of what an impact it has had in a positive way. I have to look on every cloud has a silver lining, as they say. And for me to look at that event, now we've all had to rally around and care for my mother. It's just changed perspective from a family idea, but also from my fulfilling my life's purpose and not, everything. Oh, I'll do that at 5, 10. And everyone has their 5, 10, 15-year-old plan. Well, I've done my 5-year plan in the last 2 months. It's been a good thing. So, yeah.
David, speaking of a life purpose, what is your life purpose? How do you feel?
My life purpose, I would say, is to help as many people as I possibly can with the message that I have. And my message is pretty much, I'm a big believer in mantras and poetry to remember things. And I even sing songs to myself that remind me of what I'm doing every day, my daily routine, things like that. And so I think just to be able to educate people, let's say I'm a lifelong learner, and the best way to learn is to teach. They say to teach is to learn twice. And as soon as I read every morning, and I will read something of a morning, and then someone will call me or I'll bump into somebody and they'll say, hey, they'll say, how's it going? And they'll say, oh, this happened, that happened. I'll go, oh, just this morning I read in this, that, and the other, and here's your solution. And it's just uncanny how often what I read then translates to a lesson to somebody else later on that day. Plus my friendship group, not everyone wants to be told what to do. And there are some people that are lifelong complainants. I often say to people, okay, listen, are you asking me for my advice and my help, or are you whinging? Because let me know, because I'm happy to hear you whinge, but we've already talked about this and you're just telling me what has happened to you again. You're living in that world of reactivity. I think the idea is you're talking, your whole philosophy is start with self. Yeah. And I had a saying, if it's to be, it's up to me. And a responsible person knows that they are responsible for how they respond to life. Reactive people don't respond to life. They blame. Oh, there it is. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. As a youngster, I was a pessimist and I just believed the worst was going to happen to me. And I sat back and waited. Oh, I bet you I don't get that. And I did it, but I didn't really do anything to make sure that I did get it. I wrote in a recent blog that many years ago I was questioning the power of prayer. Prayer is part of my morning routine. And I was saying, hey, God, I've been praying this for a couple of years now. What's going on? And the answer that came back was, well, are you praying or are you wishing? Oh, well, what's that? What? So what are you doing about it? And then I remembered God helps those that help themselves. I made a few phone calls, did a few things, and within a couple of weeks, I had what I'd been praying for, but I was really wishing. And even goal setting, they're not wishes. And, people go, setting intentions around full moons. They're not wishes, they're goals. They're like a blueprint to the way you want to live life. So my purpose has become helping people get out of their own way. I introduce them to the most important or interesting person they're ever going to meet in their lives, which is themselves. Because there are a lot of things people go, I don't know what my purpose is. And it's like, well, where do you find most of your joy? Where do you spend most of your money? Where do you spend most of your time? I was spending a lot of my time reading self-help books, like lots and lots and lots of self-help books. I was spending a lot of my money and time on fitness equipment and gym memberships and things like that. And I studied life coaching and then became a personal trainer because I realized my pastime could become my passion. And if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And this is kind of working to a degree, but I'm not working. And when I present to 150 people on how to handle stress in the workplace and how to deal with COVID, with all the things that I've learned, and I preach what I practice, then somebody like I got a payment coming through this way. I thought, wow, I got paid for that. Like, you kind of forget that doing this, as much as it's a service, Shakespeare says the scent of the rose remains on the hand of the giver. And I love hearing from people who are in Dubai right now because they followed their dreams and now they're running a company that they started and they're over there, or they've, started a company in Dublin, or they moved to London and, everything they said they wanted. I've coached people where they've said, I want to do this and I don't want to do this. And well, why aren't you? Oh, because of this. Okay, get rid of all those excuses. And only recently, I keep seeing a lady I coached who's moved to London who bought the house she wanted to buy. She bought the horse. She studied event management. She's having beers with her father. She moved to Australia, lived here for 5 years and was unhappy for 5 years because everything she wanted was back home. And to see her buy the home, the house, everything we had agreed on, because I can't do all their goals. Your goals are your own. It's like my father choosing what subjects I was going to study. I didn't learn them because I didn't choose them. Since I've chosen what I want to learn, that's how I'm able to retain it. Similarly, when you agree on your goals, all I do is ask questions that people aren't asking themselves. So that seems to be my life's purpose in helping as many people as I possibly can get out of their own way with the COVID thing. That presentation, to be able to have 150 people come back and say, wow, man, that was fantastic. This is brilliant. And get all this positive, affirmative response. I'm yet to have somebody, I'm sure they're out there and maybe they're the ones don't comment, to say, man, that was rubbish. What a waste of my time. I haven't had that yet. So that's kind of good. I touch wood sort of thing. So yes, that's how I'd answer that, I guess.
So David, what piece of advice would you give to someone who just feels lost at the moment with their life purpose? What is one thing they could do even today that maybe would give them more clarity? Would that be to see what they actually love doing? What would you suggest?
I would say that every single one of us is born with unique traits and abilities. And Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then must become a habit. So if what you repeatedly do and you enjoy doing is something like people sit there and they sit at a desk and they say, I hate this job. And they kind of calculate how many years they got to keep doing it till they retire. And then they wonder, they're waiting for the axe to fall. Whereas when I say to people like that lady who's moved to London, what do you really, really, really want to be doing? She always wanted to start my own events management company. And I said, so why aren't you? And she goes, I just don't think I can. And we all have these self-limiting beliefs. And we have this little mini-me voice in our head that, it's formulated from all the well-meaning people in our youth. Some of our siblings call us names and things. I had a friend once and she always wore big sunglasses. And I just said to her, why do you wear big sunglasses? She said, because my eyes are so far apart. I worked with her, so I knew how far apart her eyes were. They're as far apart as everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
But I said to her one day, where do you get that idea from? She said, my sister used to say it to me when I was little. And then one day I met her sister and I said, you're the reason why so-and-so wears the googly glasses. And she goes, what? I said, you told her eyes were too far apart. She goes, I don't remember that. And so what she said to me as a prank, or, this lady took really, really seriously. So for me, I think look back on the things that made you doubt yourself. Listen to the voice that tells you why you can't do what you want to do. And there are questions I ask people. I say, listen, if you had all the money and all the time, what would you really be doing? And then they tell me, and I say, but why? Why would you do that? Friedrich Nietzsche said, man can enjoy, and everything is man. I sometimes have to think of things because you want to say people rather, but to remember the quote, I see it. I've got a photographic memory to that degree. But he did say, with a big enough why, you can endure almost any how. And so when people work out what their purpose is, you have to say, what is your why? So what do you really want to do and why do you want to do it? So the way I was able to work out my purpose, I really loved talking to people. I really loved seeing people change and benefit and be happy. And I knew why I wanted to do it. And the idea that I could see somebody, they go, oh, hey, they go, yeah, you win at a function. It was an advertising function. It was late. But you said this to me. I think, wow. And you've now started an advertising agency and you're making all this money because of something I said. Now, it wasn't anything I would have said. It would have been questions that I would have asked. Because as I know what I know, but everybody knows what they should be doing. They're just not asking themselves the right questions to do that. So I think my thing would be to say, what is your passion? What do you really, really love doing? And then is there a way you can monetize? Now, you don't have to quit your job and do that. Start it as a side hustle. I stayed in advertising for probably 10 years longer than I wanted to because my coaching was my side hustle. My personal training I was doing from 5 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock, and then I'd go to work. I was the in-house personal trainer for Men's Fitness magazine, so it kind of worked out well that I was transitioning those skills into that and those skills into here. And I think if you can kind of do that with the different skills in life and the different pillars of your life, then you're maximizing time and you're maximizing personal enjoyment and freedom.
Thank you. That sounds very, very useful. And hopefully some of our listeners can do that even today to ask yourself these questions. David, so you are an expert in the mind and the body. What would you say, how important is this relationship to take care of the body as well as the mind? I think we both believe that both of these things are extremely, extremely important and interrelated. But how would you explain it to someone who maybe is not convinced?
I think the only way to explain to somebody who's not convinced is to say, okay, listen, just start with something. If you're not looking after yourself,
start with self.
Yeah, start with self, 100%. And there was something, I think it was either Gandhi or Buddha said that it would have been Gandhi, I guess, because Buddha wasn't necessarily the doyen of health for a picturesque perspective or a physical perspective, but he said, be kind to the mind. Be kind to the body. It's the one thing that ensures the mind awakens every day. And they say your health is your wealth. My father used to say your health is your wealth. Health is your wealth. You can have all the money in the world, but if you're looking at it from a defibrillator or a dialysis machine, what good is it to you? And they say that people spend the first half of their life chasing their wealth and then the second half of their life chasing back their health. And I know many a wealthy person who says, well, I can't do this now because particularly people who've made their money through physical labor, or then they riddle their body with pain because they carried things the wrong way or they didn't get enough sleep. And for mine, I just know, there's a song that I sing that goes around a poem around the best 6 doctors I know of, and no one can deny it, sunshine, water, air, and rest, and exercise and diet. And if you break each of those down, they really are. People who sit inside all day, they don't get vitamin D, they don't get a melatonin reaction from the sun on their eyes or seeing their eyes. You need at least 30 mils of water for every kilo of body weight. So if you're 100 kilos and you drink 3 liters of water a day, because that'd be 30 mils per kilo, you wouldn't be 100 kilos. Because people who drink 3 liters of water a day are actually up and about a little bit more. It flushes your kidneys. The water-soluble vitamins get moved around. So sunshine, water, air, getting a bit of fresh air, breath work. In meditation, your meditation starts off with focusing on your breath. When you're aware of your breathing, you're aware of your parasympathetic system, and it relaxes you, it calms you. When people get scared, the first thing they do is they go, it's the body, breathing in, because the adrenaline is being sent from the brain to the heart and all that sort of thing. So, and then rest. People know they've got to get 8 hours rest. People complain of insomnia, and They read about how to sleep on their phones just before they go to bed. They watch television. Everyone knows. The thing is, they say to know what not to do is really not to know. And so everyone knows what they need to do. They're just not doing it. My suggestion is do what you know. Do what you've learned. From an 8-hour sleep perspective, with COVID, I used to get up at 4:00, 4:30 in the morning. COVID, I don't have to cut a couple of hours at least a day out of my commute. So for me, I just make sure I set my timer rather than alarm. And I set it for 8 hours, 8 minutes, and 8 seconds, just for that 888 lucky thing. And I set that. And then when I wake up, I wake up and it's 8 hours sleep. So I'm very, very well rested. Exercise is something that if you don't use it, you lose it. And, in movement, they say emotion is energy in motion. And anybody I know that has a problem, once they go for a run or a walk for half an hour, that problem seems to work itself out. I say do that without headphones on so you can actually think. But the idea of not moving, and I say 80 seconds has been determined to be the minimum exercise dosage. After 80 seconds, you could be doing air squats or push-ups or sit-ups or even walking. It takes 80 seconds for your calories to be pushed into your muscles rather than to be pushed into the fat storage system. So even if you started with 80 seconds, and when I recommend people only 80 seconds. Now, no one's going to do 80 seconds and stop because of how they feel. Immediately after you do 80 seconds of air squats, then you walk into the kitchen, you're going to consider what you're about to put into your body. So then that leads to the diet section, and we really are what we eat. If you look at as a species, we're all born. There's no such thing as a fat baby, and there's no fat animals in the wild. In fact, animals in captivity, the animals you see in zoos, animal parks, are 30% fatter or heavier than animals in the wild. I remember the first time I saw a dingo, I went to the Northern Territory and I saw a dingo and I thought, wow, why is it so tiny? It's because it's living as a wild animal would live. Whereas in the zoo, they're being fed 3 meals a day. Well, often that's it, feed zoo animals. And they're not getting the exercise that they would out there and out and about. So I just think that physiology is psychology. How you carry yourself is how you feel. If I'm sitting here and I start to feel a bit, I have to stand up. I've got to stand up. I put a box up here, I'll put the laptop and I'll stand up so that I'm moving throughout the day. But I also just know that the benefit and the beauty for humans is that you might decide at 50 years of age, I'm going to do it. I'm going to lose this weight. It might have taken you 40 or 30 years to put that weight on. It won't take you 30 or 40 years to get it off. One of my brothers, I had a substantial financial bet with him, which I lost because he lost 30 kilos in 4 months. The bet, the money was to motivate him. No, he did it on his own. I gave him some workout programs and some diet suggestions. And there was the incentive of appearing within the pages of Men's Fitness magazine, which he did. He was even on the cover. Now, not as the cover model, but in the cover, on the top cover was his story. And he lost that weight because he had an incentive. And so I think the thing as well for me is when I had children, I had to look after me to be able to look after them. I say to people, the best thing I can do for you is look after me. The best thing you can do for me is to look after you.
So the motivation that people have is what actually drives them. If the motivation is strong enough, like your promise to your father that now we are going to really take care of your life, and you did more in 2 months than in a few years. Would you say that this motivation and connecting to your why is what can actually drive progress in people's lives?
That is it. The other thing I say when people, because you are really, the why is it. Now, okay, why did you want to lose 30 kilos, my brother? Because he knew that he was actually on the highway to hell. He's actually a priest, so he's not in hell in his mind's eye. But the idea that he would be getting there earlier. And it's something I said to somebody, suicide's such a terrible thing. And it's very, very prevalent in society these days. And yet some of us are kind of slowly doing that by just not looking after ourselves. We are poisoning our bodies with, don't get me wrong, I'm not the doyen of, I live very abstemiously from Monday to Friday, and then I will relax. I won't eat red meat through the week if I can avoid it, and I don't drink alcohol through the week if I can avoid it. What I mean by that is if somebody invited me for a drink, I'd have a glass of red wine with them. I don't want to be so long. I don't drink or I'm a vegan, or, and that's all very well and good if you choose that lifestyle, but it starts with self. And unless the people you're with want that advice or want that, then don't throw it on them. But of a weekend, I'll have a big steak and a few red wines, and I'll train as hard. I'll just go for walks rather than, and it's my kind of release. And when I talk about, the liber and balance side of things, it is in life is all about balance. You work smart, you play smart. You spend, but you save. And it's that abundance mentality that I think if you can have and you connect that to your why, then you will do that. Now, I train every day. My big why is I know how I feel if I don't. So if I really feel like it, and I think, well, I don't want to feel. And there's a lot of, I say, be kind to your future self. And for me, there's a lot of, I know how I will feel if I don't. I know I sleep better when I exercise. I know I sleep better when I don't eat a great big dinner. I know I think smarter when I've actually trained. I know I feel stronger. My clothes fit me better. I have a better sense of self-confidence. I think it was Coco Chanel that said, when a man wears a good suit, you notice the man. When he wears a bad suit, you notice the suit. But I think a good suit is generally a tailor-made suit. And it's very rare that an overweight man wears a tailor-made suit. When you get a tailor-made suit, well, all of my suits are tailor-made, but for the reason that it's another kind of measurement tool. If those suits don't fit me, then I've got to train harder because they were made to at my best level of fitness. So yeah, I think that to me is why exercise and movement are all part of life. We were designed, let's go back to caveman times and the way we, all of this that we've inherited through DNA and evolution started there. If we evolved from sedentary beings, we wouldn't be here today.
So exercise and movement and being mindful of what thoughts you are feeding yourself or feeding your mind.
And the good way to do that is through journaling and meditation. My morning routine involves both. And so that's one of those things that it gives you a sense of awareness as well. And it's kind of like they say, if it's not measurable, it's not manageable. These Fitbits and things you see people having and heart rate monitors and the scales. I get on the scales every day. It's just another one of those things I do every morning. But that's to see that I'm measuring where my goals are and where I'm at with my life stage in lifestyle. I mean, people say, oh, I had this life stage. I passed a vision personal training the other day, and whilst I'm a big proponent of the way they do things, they said a 9-week thing and you fill out the book and that's great and you're guaranteed to do it. But the ad said, train for your life stage. Whereas I think you should train for your lifestyle. And, I do the same exercises as a 53-year-old man than I used to do as an 18-year-old boy, 18-year-old adult teenager, if you like. But I just do the same weights back then. I now just do 20 rather than the 5 I can do back then because I don't want to strain and stress my body, but I still train the same way. And the thing about exercise, it's scalable. If you want to lift heavier, then lift as heavy as you can lift. Just because you're not lifting what Arnold Schwarzenegger lifts doesn't mean you're not lifting what you should be lifting. And it all comes back to you. You start with self. And in that regard, what is your training for? It's for you. I have a barber. I haven't been to see him for a while. The only thing for me with COVID is I've been able to get a haircut. But he said to me once, people come in and they give me photographs of Tom Cruise and they say, can you cut my hair like this? And I'm like, he said, well, I could. You don't look like Tom Cruise. Your facial structure is completely different. So it's going to look stupid on you. Similarly, people who want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he had a unique, there's ectomorphs, endomorphs, and mesomorphs. There's body types. He had a particular body type. You will never look like him if you're born with a similar sort of body. So you just got to work out who you are and be the best version of yourself and work to that and be happy with who that is. Never be complacent, but be happy with who it is you are being with all the gifts and abilities you've been given. Anyone knows what they are and everyone knows when they're not doing them.
That's
I say to know and not to do. So I often say to people, to know or not to do is really not to know. No matter what, if you don't do it, do you really know it? If I can write and I don't write, can I write? If I can paint but I don't paint, am I a painter? So Epictetus said, if you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be what you want to be, then do what you say you want to be to have what you want to have.
David, I feel that you also see huge value in starting your day in a, let's say, right way with certain morning rituals that later during the day keep you going in the direction you want to go. How does your morning routine look like currently, and what could you recommend for people who might be thinking that they want to change their mornings and what they do?
My first thing is the first hour is the rudder of the day. If you get your morning right, you'll own the day. The idea of, everyone's probably TikTok at the moment is made everybody kind of like a guru, and people are seeing speeches from graduation things in America. And, they say the first thing you should do is make your bed. And, that's a given in my book. I don't know why I wouldn't make their bed, because, that's the first thing you do. But it is the first thing I do. I get up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I make my bed. I then come into the kitchen and I have a big glass of water with a juice of half a lemon and some Himalayan sea salt, or rock salt rather. It's got 84 minerals in it. So I'm rehydrating. It's like a natural Barocca or a natural hydrolyte. We haven't drank any water for 8 hours, or I haven't. So I drink half a litre to a litre of water. I drink that through a metal straw because the lemon can be acidic on your enamel of your teeth. So, and that's just another thing I'd learned. So then I'll have more, and then I'll have an espresso coffee, and then I will sit down and meditate for half an hour. Now, by half an hour, the coffee's kicked in, because people think, I can't do anything till I have my morning coffee.
Yeah.
Well, your morning coffee doesn't actually have an effect on you till about half an hour. So it could be psychosomatic. And I love the smell of coffee, and so those people probably. But then once I've meditated, I then journal. So for me, people say, I don't know how to meditate, so I don't do it. Well, if you gave up on going to the gym because you didn't get muscles after 3 sessions, that is just as ludicrous as people who say they gave up on meditation, which is, exercising the muscle of the brain or the mind. And in that half an hour, whatever thoughts, no one's saying be a woo-woo Zen master. They're saying be aware of just concentrating on your breath. You know how to teach a meditation course better than any of us. But the idea that every time your mind does wander, you bring it back. That's where I feel the benefits of meditation are. I know that they say that you build new neural pathways through meditation. Now, if you look at the Harbour Bridge here in Sydney or the Burleigh Bridge in Melbourne, or even the New Anzac Bridge, if they put more laneways on those bridges at peak hour traffic, the traffic will just flow. Similarly with meditation, the more neural pathways you have, when stuff comes at you that's unexpected, or you just don't get overwhelmed because you handle it better. People say, wow, you took that really, really well. It's like, I don't know why I didn't react. I used to. When I was younger, I was the angriest young man running around the place. But learning that wasn't going to get me to the wonderful future that I wanted to have. So things like, how can I be calm? And so I've read all these things, and I've done meditation courses. So that's the next thing. And then whatever comes up in meditation, that's when I journal. Now, I used to set a timer to journal. Now I just journal with two A4 pages. And I bought myself a nice fountain pen, so I write with cursing. So it's a bit of a ritual. And then by this stage, I've also poured myself a double shot of coffee by now. And then I will, at the end of my journaling, I'll then exercise. So that exercise could be a Wakefest walk. I live quite close to a national park. So I'll walk through the national park. And that again is I'm combining all of those things. So when I talk about mental, physical, spiritual, social, financial, and family, the more of those pillars you can combine. So mentally, reading and then telling somebody, I've combined that, meditating and then benefiting, walking with a friend and socializing, that sort of thing. So I'll get some exercise in. I've got a sauna, so not everybody can kind of have a sauna, but I have a sauna after that. And then I have a cold shower. On the days that I don't have a sauna, I will still finish that shower with a mini cold. And that's just to really just wake myself up to myself, so to speak. And it's also me owning my mind. People go, my mind tells me I should do this. Well, whose mind is it? It's yours. You tell your mind what to do. I've heard some really smart people say, I can't get to sleep because my mind just tells me this and tells me that. And so, well, tell your mind, you want to go to sleep. You go to sleep. You're the boss. And so things like having cold showers and putting yourself in situations where you're putting yourself under, like, walk for an extra 10 minutes, lift 10 more reps. I'll finish my workout just before I go on the sauna, I go, I'll do another rep. And it's just doing something better than I did before. And it's that constant never ending improvement that Tony Robbins talks about. And I think Ernest Hemingway said, it's not being better than your fellow man, it's being better than the man you were yesterday. So not being better than that other person. And the competition is the person in the mirror. The person am I better than who I was yesterday? And the idea of stoicism, that I could leave life tomorrow, well, would I be happy with the life that I lived? And it really does change the way you respond to things. I don't hold grudges. I've lost people along the way that other people I know have gone, oh no, and they feel so bad because they hadn't spoken to that person for a while. So, well, I spoke to them just last week. I don't have to worry about, I'm worried about grief. I'm worried about grieving for myself. And a lot of people grieve for their own loss of that they didn't repair that relationship. They say forgiveness is setting the prisoner free and recognizing the prisoner was yourself. And that is so true for people who even road rage, just the bloke in front of you is fault for you being late. But you just started an argument with a stranger because he's in war away. There's no road rage on Sundays, on little.
At least not now in lockdown.
You'd like to hope so.
David, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts about the body and the mind. And I feel that there's one more component that we mentioned a little bit today, but not that much, which is gratitude, which I feel helps both the body feel better and also the mind. And I know you have also a beautiful moving story about your dad and his diaries that you saw after he died. Could you share this story with us?
Yeah, it's funny. And the reason I entitled that blog An Attitude of Gratitude rather than Attitude of Gratitude was that my father had been keeping diaries since 1998. Now, they weren't like a Dear Diary, I'm feeling a bit blue today. They were chronological and kind of time-stamped. So it might say 7:20, David rang, or had lunch at, Trevi in Balkan Hills and all the people that were there. And he had really kind of time-stamped his life and had a collection of memories that he put in there. But quite often throughout it, it was like great, great, and great. And even things like funerals, he would say the eulogy, great. The people are great. And he just had this attitude of gratitude. Everything was great. And even his 85th birthday speech, I do a future pacing exercise with people where I say to them, imagine yourself at your 85th birthday. How do you want to look? You want to be able to stand up on your own 2 feet, unassisted. You want to raise a good glass of wine, and all those people there that you have accumulated throughout the year through friendships and through raising them. And you want to give a good account of yourself. And my father did just that. And he stood up, and at the end of it, he just said, great, you're all great. And I thought, there is that attitude of gratitude. He had that attitude. And I think the idea that he placed so much importance on those diaries and that memories. And someone asked me the other day what I thought the meaning of life was. And I said, I believe, my personal opinion is that life is about meaning and memories. Create the memories through the meaning and the meaning through the memories. You never see a removalist truck behind a hearse. You can't take it with you. Yeah. And my youngest sister said on the day that my father died, and we went upstairs where he had his office and where he did his writing and reading. And she said, you know what? They say it's easier for a rich man to pass through a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. She said, Dad really had no possessions. And when I looked around, I thought, well, he had a few presents that people had given him, golf clubs and books and things, but he really wasn't an ostentatious man. But what I did think was that he did have possessions. They were his memories. They were his family. He used to say to me when I was young, you've put a rocket through this house. And, when I did something dumb or stupid or against his wishes, and the house was his home, the house was his castle, as they say, that was where all of his possession was. The possession was his family. And so I say all of my father's memories, which we are now able to share in, what he would do is he would sit down every day and he'd go through, like he might open up, today would be the 11th of August. He would open that up since 1998 and he would write on a Post-it note what happened on that day. And then if you called to the house or you saw him and there was a lull in the conversation, he said, 15 years ago, you had that operation on your carpal tunnel, and you think, oh, wow, but it was also a very good indicator of how, well, 15 years ago? Wow, that seems like yesterday. And it's never that you never think, oh, I thought it was a lot longer. Time is very, very short. And so that's one thing that with that attitude of gratitude, my father was always saying, life's very, very short. Life's very, very fast. And I think, oh, you're 85 and you're saying that. So, and it is. Life is short. So it's kind of like, get on with it. What are you waiting for? Because we never know when our number is up. And there's a saying that says, many a man goes to his grave with music still in his soul. So if you want to learn Spanish, learn Spanish. You can do it online. Really, they say the online industry is going to be worth $235 billion by 2025. You could learn how to do anything. YouTube, great. Get online and learn whatever it is you want to learn. And it's just about saying, do I want to learn it? Why do I want to learn it? And then do it.
And be
just do it. Or 100%.
Be grateful for every step of the journey.
Yeah. The idea when people, yeah, absolutely. And when people say to me, I can't sleep at night, I suggest that if every person as they're lying in bed of an evening thinks of 3 things that they're grateful for that day. They say in journaling, I'll write 3 things you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my life. Be specific and remember something that actually happened that day. And I'll think, well, I'm really, really grateful I got to see so-and-so. I'm really, really grateful I got to do this. Generally, I'm asleep before I got to the third, and so you can't think of your worries when you're thinking what you're happy for. Shakespeare said, nothing's either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And when you sit there and think how great the day was, you can't go, oh, rubbish, rubbish, rubbish. I set an alarm for 3:00 in the afternoon where I write out the things, wake me up at 3:00 in the morning when I can't do anything about them. My alarm goes at 3:00 these days, and it's like, nothing to worry about. And luckily for me.
And when we focus on the blessings, life will give us even more things to be grateful for. That's what I
100%.
At least.
Yep.
I believe. David, our last question, and we did mention it a little bit today, but I would like to ask you to say in one sentence, what does that mean to you to start with self?
I think to start with self is to think to yourself, if it's to be, it's up to me. We came into the world on our own. We're going to go out on our own. My father used to say to me, never rely on, wait for a rich man's shoes. By the time you inherit them, you're told to walk. And there's another thing that says you never rely on a wealthy spouse or inheritance, because by the time you inherit them, you never know when either one of them might run out on you. So for me, I just think starting with self and being the person who goes, okay, what do I need to do today to be the best version of myself? Then you will kind of naturally be that version. I mean, in living in the present moment of self and being self-aware, they say the unexamined life is not worth living, and be aware of yourself. That is starting with self and being present. If all you do is focus on being the best version of yourself in this moment, and you're naturally going to have a great future, and you're naturally going to live a good past. So starting with self, being that best version of yourself is pretty much where I would say it starts and ends, because no one is responsible for you but you. No one owes you anything but you, and only you can look after you. We go through stages. As a child, we're dependent. As an adult, we're independent. We're also interdependent. So that interdependence comes from being the sort of person that people want to be around, being the sort of person who serves. And, as I say, to give somebody is to kind of get back. I find enormous pleasure in thinking, okay, how would I feel if this was me in this situation? Empathy is a gift. Compassion is a gift. And that to me is where starting with self gives you that real, as I say, if it's to be, it's up to me. And self-awareness means that you've thought before you've spoken, and you've thought about other people besides yourself, because you put yourself first from that perspective. My father used to say, again, whether he realized it or not, as a good thing, around the time that I was putting rockets through the house, he used to say, oh, there he is, looking after number one, as long as number one's all right. And the reality of it is, I am number one in the perspective of I have to look after myself before I'm any good to anyone else. They say it on the planes when the oxygen mask drops down, fix yourself before you fix the kids or anyone else. My children were like 2 and 3, just sitting beside me on the plane when I first heard that. And I was like, what? Of course I'd help them. And then I thought, no, I'm no good to anybody until I'm good for myself. And so, yeah, that to me is the whole thing. Look after number one. I even have a smoothie that I have post workout, which I call my looking after number one smoothie. In it, it's got banana, it's got egg whites, it's got oat milk, it's got wheat germ, hemp seed, chia seeds, all these things that are really great. And I'm looking after number one so I can be the best version of myself to serve others.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks.
And the last question, actually, now, how can people reach out to you? What's the best way? Is it your website? Is it LinkedIn? We're going to put some links below the video, so if you can share.
Yeah, kind of all of the above. I mean, on my website, I've got a www.leeway.com.au. I call my business Leeway because leeway means freedom. It's also David Lee. I used to say in the corporate world when they'd say, yo, I do this. And so say, can you give me a bit of leeway? And I'd hang up the phone and say, I want to do it the David Lee way. But the idea of that was have a bit of freedom. And through my website, you can book a free consultation that we can talk about your goals and see whether we want to work together. LinkedIn as well. But even simple david@leeway.com.au is my email address. And I got an email the other day from somebody saying, I got your email off your website. I just have a few questions. What do you think? And I said, yeah, here you go. And I sent them my template on purpose. I mean, I've created a lot of coaching tools that are around. The one I've recently created is the 7 levers of self-mastery in leadership. So the idea of that is fill out this questionnaire and you get the answers, so, we all have done the census where there's a bunch of questions that serve somebody else. All of my questionnaires for discovering your life's purpose, learning how to listen to people, they're all your questions that you benefit from once you finish them. People say, oh, I brought my answers along. I said, I don't need to see them. That were your answers. But if you've got any more questions, you can work with that.
And people can subscribe and get the template from your website.
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thank you so much,
Thanks.
David.
Thanks, Ola.
And to those who are listening, thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe and, of course, share this episode with others. Thank you.
Thanks, Ola.